Good evening, Mr. and Ms. Internet and all our ships at sea. It's Thursday. It's time once again for a YouTube live edition of the Freeway Forum, coming to you live and direct from the world-famous 405 freeway in beautiful, sunny Southern California. My name is Atari. This is a free-form discussion that is hosted by me, but it is driven by you. Yes, you friends, you and your comments are what make this show possible. We'll take a topic today and we'll talk about it. Drop your comments down in the doobly-doo. Let me know you're here. Let me know what you think about this topic, and we will have us a nice, good discussion. In the meantime, if you're watching this, please go ahead and like this video and share it with all your amigos and amigas on the social media, and we can get as many people in here and have us a rollicking good discussion today. So, last week was Flintstones Day, whatever day it was. It's the anniversary of the premiere of the Flintstones on ABC way back in 64, 65, 63, somewhere early 60s. So we were talking about other things. So this week I decided to pay a little homage to one of my early favorites, the Flintstones. Let's talk about old school cartoons. What is your favorite old school cartoon? Drop me a comment down in the doobly-doo. Let me know. Favorite old school cartoon and or favorite prime time animated series. Which, of course, we would not have that. The Flintstones was the very first prime-time animated series way back in the 60s. It wasn't just kids stuff. It was actually a show that was it was intended for well, adults, but a family audience. Prime time was family audience time. So that's where the Simpsons, or that's where the Flintstones were. Of course, without the Flintstones, you would not have the Simpsons. You would not have without the Simpsons, you wouldn't have the Critic. Without the Critic, you wouldn't. Well, the Critic kind of went off on its own. But Critic was a great show, by the way. I freaking love the Critic. We'll talk about the Critic in a minute. Without the Simpsons, you wouldn't have had Beavis and Butthead. You wouldn't have had you wouldn't have Family Guy. You wouldn't have Futurama. You wouldn't have Rick and Morty. Outside of without this progression of animated series, the Flintstones sort of proved the concept way back in the 60s. And then again, people looked at least American audiences looked at cartoons as kids stuff. They just looked at it as it's just it's something for children. And so it didn't catch on too well. It kind of got bumped and moved to Saturday morning. It ran too long. I haven't seen something like that. It ran way too long for what it was. Like it started out as this. It started out as this sort of animated, tongue-in-cheek parody of the Honeymooners. It was the Honeymooners idea. It was the Honeymooners sort of the working family, the husband and wife, working class, and then of course the best friend neighbors and all the hijinks that can ensue there. So in that respect, it was a great show and it was fun. The problem is they just ran out of ideas. They kind of ran out of ideas really probably after the first 2 or 3 seasons, and it just sort of became like a gimmick show, and it was just the Flintstones ran its course. Really, it jumped the shark after about 2 or 3 seasons, whereas the Simpsons did take a lot longer to do that. They just sort of like become a parody with the Flintstones, as they just kind of became a parody. No, cars that started coming on, and somewhere between the Munsters and the Addams Family. I'm not quite sure where the Gruesomes were supposed to end up, but they were in that sort of like sort of strange boundary test. Same thing can be said about the Great Gazoo. You know, Gazoo really was sort of like this, it was just a MacGuffin to create more strange and terrible scenarios, weirder scenarios for Fred and Barney to get into, and then find their way out of. It was just, I felt like Gazoo was a bit of a cop-out. Like, I liked the character. I liked the character of Gazoo. I thought he was a fun little character, you know, being, you know, a spaceman and like so far advanced, you know, beyond the Earthlings, the cavemen of Earth. You know, Gazoo was an interesting little character. I liked the way he was played. I think Alan Reed played him, who was also Fred. I want to say it was Alan Reed, but I can't be. Maybe I'm just thinking Alan Cumming because he played him in the movie Viva Rock Vegas. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But it was a great little voice actor, a great little voiced character, a lot of fun. I enjoyed the character, but I never liked the plots that Gazoo was involved with. So that was sort of a thing for the Flintstones. But I want to know what your favorite cartoons were, your favorite classics, your favorite old school, and your favorite primetime television animated series. I could sit here and talk about the Flintstones all day because, you know, I've watched the Flintstones extensively for most of my life. You know, growing up in Atlanta, TBS Superstation Channel 17. Of course, Turner bought the rights to Hanna-Barbera, so Hanna-Barbera was like, they had everything. They still have everything because that's how you get Boomerang now. Real quick, Chris says, I think he said Animaniacs. Oh, I missed it. Oh, there we go. Animaniacs and Rescue Rangers. Not that old school, but old enough. Animaniacs and Rescue Rangers, fantastic shows. I really enjoyed Animaniacs, and I especially enjoyed Rescue Rangers. The Disney Afternoon was just phenomenal and brilliant, and I'm so excited that Disney's actually sort of they're actually doing some stuff in the background in Burbank. Up in Burbank, they're doing some stuff in the background. They're kicking around ideas to revive the Disney Afternoon lineup. Rumor has it, because they just did a big thing. If you watch Shawnicus, Shawnicus is another YouTube channel. He's based out here. He writes for, I can't remember which blog it is he writes for, but he's a Disney nut, and old school Disney nut, and he's been doing a whole series on DuckTales, on the reboot. And by the way, if you have not watched the DuckTales reboot, it is absolutely fantastic. If you're a fan of DuckTales, the television series, or any of the old Disney Duck cartoons, or even the Carl Barks comics, the Uncle Scrooge comics, the Donald Duck comics, they're all fantastic. The new DuckTales is brilliant, and I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. The pilot episode is on YouTube. It is available on YouTube to watch, and so I do recommend after this show go and check it out. But behind Shawnicus was talking about, I just saw a little while, it was a couple of weeks ago now, because I'm that far behind on my YouTube watch queue. But he did he went up to he was invited to it was sort of a reception, if you will. It was sort of a celebration of the Disney Afternoon at Disney Studios up in Burbank, and just just a nice, goofy little one-off kind of thing that they were doing. Now, back in the 80s, 90s, Disneyland actually had like a Disney afternoon section of the park where they did, you know, things. They had meet and greets, they had characters, and some interesting little activities and attractions there themed around the Disney afternoon properties. In fact, there is one remnant of that. Left over, and that is Gadget's Go Coaster. Very, very back of the park in Mickey's Toontown. Gadget's Go Coaster is a Rescue Rangers themed attraction at Disneyland. And it's just it's a little kiddie coaster. It's nothing really to write home about, but the theming is nice. It's fun. It looks like something that Gadget would come up with, you know, on a lark, because she's awesome like that. Gadget's one of my favorite characters, by the way. Yeah, Rescue Rangers, a fantastic show. I loved the hell out of that show. And the funny thing is, you ever noticed? Yes, there was a Star Trek animated series. Yes, Chris, there was a Star Trek animated series. Reconnect. The camera's trying to... There it goes. Okay, and we're back. So, yeah, it's not my favorite. The animated series is not my favorite of the Star Trek sort of universe, but it's, you know, a lot of Trekkies love it. I'm indifferent with it. I don't think it's bad. I just don't enjoy it very much. But you know, to each his own. But yeah, there is a Star Trek animated series, and it's decent. It's worth watching. Let's put it that way. So yeah, so the Disney afternoon, the Rescue Rangers is an interesting one to bring up, because I don't know if you've ever noticed. Actually, Rescue Rangers is an interesting, like, the concept was an interesting thing that got retooled a handful of times. But really, Rescue Rangers actually started out as a television version of The Rescuers, as a spinoff of The Rescuers, which actually was supposed, you know, The Rescuers Down Under ended up being the sequel to The Rescuers, but actually Oliver and Company was supposed to be the sequel to The Rescuers, if you didn't know that. Dude, we're getting, like, way off here. But with Rescue Rangers, it was going to be a show called Miami Mice, you know, as a parody of Miami Vice, and ended up getting kind of retooled into what is now known as Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. They added Chip and Dale. It was going to be all original characters, but the original characters that ended up staying were Gadget, Monterey Jack, and Zipper. But they added Chip and Dale for the marquee value and to try and kind of build an audience for it, because it was kind of a different concept, and it ended up working. And you can tell there's a certain influence on those characters, especially from a character designer and animator's standpoint. If you'll look very closely, Chip and Dale might remind you of two very prominent adventure characters from the 1980s, and I'm sure people who know this will know this, and they'll drop it down in the comments and say, oh yes, it is, I see it. So if you go and look at a picture of Chip and Dale as the Rescue Rangers, and let me know if you see who they're modeled after, if you can see who they're modeled after. That'll be a fun one. Anyway, so yeah, Chip and Dale was interesting. Chip and Dale was a lot of fun. Actually, another funny story about Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. I was at Disneyland, actually Disney California Adventure. They have they call it Animation Academy, and you go in and there's a Disney artist that teaches you how to draw different characters, and they just do, like, you know, it's like a 15-minute show, and you go in and you get a piece of paper and a pencil and a little desk, and they show you on the projector how to draw these characters. And it was it's kind of funny. We were in there one time and drawing Chip, and we're drawing Chip, and then of course, like, the next show was draw Dale. So we're drawing Chip, and we get all the way through, and it's basically, you know, Chip's face. That's kind of where we are at on it. And the guy doing the doing the class, and he's like, and of course this is geared towards children. And he's like, so does anybody know there's something on the top of Chip's head that's missing? There's something missing on the top of Chip's head, you know. And of course the answer he's looking for is, you know, for some kid to yell out ears, you know. But before that could happen, yours truly, you know, old school smart aleck, yells out, his hat! He's missing his hat! And the guy just stops. He just completely stops. He kind of laughs. He's just like, he's really holding it back. Like, and he just stops. He's like, wow. Chip hasn't worn a hat in 20 years. That's amazing. And just like, it was just like, he had to stop for a minute. And that was fun. That was great. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I enjoyed that moment. That's one of my fun moments from my adventures at Disneyland. Anyway, so yeah, so Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, fun show, love that show. And rumor has it that based on the strength of the new DuckTales reboot, they may or will be rebooting the rest of the mainline Disney Afternoon series. We might not get gummy bears, but I was never big into gummy bears anyway. But we may be getting not only DuckTales, but we're almost certainly getting Darkwing Duck, and Goof Troop and Tailspin, and that would be phenomenal because they've already teased it in the pilot, and they've teased the existence of Spoonerville, which is where Goof Troop is set, Cape Suzette, which is where Tailspin is set, and St. Canard, which is where Darkwing Duck is set. And of course you've got Launchpad that bridges the gap between the two of them. So, and the writers haven't not said it. They haven't come out and said, no, there is not going to be a Darkwing Duck. There's a Funko Pop for Darkwing Duck, the new Darkwing Duck, or like a new style Darkwing Duck. There's a lot of teaser art for a new style Darkwing Duck. So we're almost certainly getting Darkwing Duck in DuckTales. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And, keep your fingers crossed that we get the rest of the Disney Afternoon back, because I would love me some Goof Troop. Oh yeah, by the way, Roxanne from Goofy Movie is in the DuckTales pilot. She looks a lot like Roxanne, and she's age appropriate. So we'll see what happens. We may get something interesting. But anyway, maybe it's just an Easter egg. Who knows? But anyway, so that's the Disney Afternoons. I love the Disney Afternoon. I love that show. Tailspin was my freaking jam, man. Watched like every episode of Tailspin multiple times. I freaking love that show. Don Carnage, well, I would say Don Carnage is my spirit animal, but I'm not that bad of a person, really. I'm kind of a Baloo, somewhere between Baloo and Cloud Kicker. Maybe with a little bit of Wildcat thrown in there. Where are you going, buddy? All right. Anyway, so and then Animaniacs. Animaniacs was the other one that was brought up. Animaniacs, that's another great classic show. Now, Animaniacs is fun in that it kind of it was sort of this weird, like, Acme Acres took place in the real world, but Acme Acres was Acme Acres, and it wasn't like a real place. Like, geographically speaking, Acme Acres is very ambiguous. It's sort of supposed to be Los Angeles, but it isn't. Like, if it were like a neighborhood in Los Angeles, that's sort of what Acme Acres... They actually show it on a map. There is an episode where they show Acme Acres on a map, and I think it's supposed to be like Catalina Island. So it's like just off the coast of Southern California. So it's like it would be Los Angeles County, but it wouldn't be like City of Los Angeles. But it's very, very reminiscent of Southern California, and of course, you know, everything that's involved therein. But Animaniacs is interesting because Animaniacs actually takes place in Los Angeles. Like, it takes place in and around Los Angeles, with the exception of what's it called? The Goodfeathers. With the exception of the Goodfeathers cartoons, Animaniacs all takes place in Los Angeles, or like surrounding area, like Slappy Squirrel's in Pasadena. The Warner Brothers lot is the Warner Brothers lot, which is like right on the edge of Burbank, North Hollywood, that area. Yeah, it's kind of like right outside, just right there on the edge of Burbank. So there's the Warner lot, and I've been to the Warner lot on multiple occasions, by the way. I actually have a blog post on AirborneSurfer.com. Go to AirborneSurfer.com and search. What did I search? What did I write? How did I title that one? Search Warner Brothers. A trip to Warner Brothers Studios. Search trip to Warner Brothers Studios, and you should find it there. And you'll see it's fun. It's a nice little article. I highly recommend reading it. Not just because I get paid. I get paid if you go there, but whatever. Advertising, merchandising. You know, advertising. That's how you get paid nowadays. But yeah, AirborneSurfer.com and search for a trip to Warner Brothers Studios. Went there a couple of times to go see Conan O'Brien, and that's a fun trip right there. Going to watch Conan. The Basic Cable Band, Jimmy Vizino and the Basic Cable Band, fantastic, primo, highly recommended, highly recommended. Yeah, so Animaniacs, fun show, a lot of fun. Yeah, Buttons and Mindy is somewhere in the valley, you know, suburban LA. You know, all these little things kind of take place around Los Angeles. Acme Labs is I forgot where Acme Labs is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be like down like towards Piggyback Yards in that area, like South LA. But I don't recall off the top of my head. Maybe Culver City, maybe in that direction. But it's ambiguous. It's somewhere in LA though. Unless it's not, because Pinky and the Brain had a lot of episodes where they're like in different places and different, you know. Pinky and the Brain are interesting in that they're kind of geographically ambiguous and temporally ambiguous. So there's all these different episodes of Pinky and the Brain, and the Warner Brothers and the Warner sister as well, which is fine. You know, it doesn't have to be like always set in the same place. So they go to different places and different times, and so it's just they get dropped into the middle of it, and they're sort of anachronistic because they are who they are, but they know they're in a cartoon, but nobody else realizes they're in a cartoon. It's just funny. It's just plain funny. It's great writing. It's absolutely fantastic writing. It doesn't need to be more than that. But you know, if we were really jonesing for some idea channel kind of stuff, we could actually talk about all the sort of like sociological ideas getting thrown around, and the sort of you know, social commentary that gets thrown around in Animaniacs. And it's a fantastic series. I do love watching old school Animaniacs. Actually, funny, Yakko Warner, Rob Paulsen and I are kind of like Twitter buddies. We yell at each other every once in a while, especially during hockey season. During hockey season, you know, we might ruffle each other's feathers because he's a Blackhawks fan, or no, not Blackhawks fan, Detroit Red Wings. He's a Red Wings fan. He would never let me live that down if I said if he knew I'd call him a Hawks fan. He's a Wings fan. He's a Red Wings fan. Of course, I'm a Ducks fan. So there's a little bit of rivalry there. Not as huge as, like, say, you know, LA Kings and Anaheim Ducks, or even the Sharks and Anaheim Ducks, but you know, it's fun. It's, you know, tweet at each other once in a while. It's usually I tweet at him and then he replies. It's not really like a back and forth thing. Cool guy though, very cool guy. Been working forever, and that's yeah. So, and he's been in everything. Good grief, he's in every freaking thing you can imagine. Like, you know, every cartoon from the 80s and 90s has Rob Paulsen on the credits somewhere. It's like Rob Paulsen and Maurice LaMarche. You know, he's in like everything too, and they are Pinky and the Brain, respectively. Rob Paulsen and Maurice LaMarche, and it's actually quite funny when they start doing adult shows as Pinky and the Brain, and you know, they do like shows every once in a while where they, you know, just retrospective, go and meet fans kind of thing like that, and they'll bust into Pinky and the Brain and do very silly things. Of course, Maurice LaMarche was also on The Critic. We're going to tie this back into a primetime show. The Critic, which was a fantastic, love that show. Love it, love it, love it, love it. If you've never watched The Critic, it's only like 2 seasons. Freaking watch it. It is absolutely brilliant. It is definitely the kind of show that you can watch that. It was ahead of its time because that concept sort of became the concept for Family Guy. You can tell that, you can really tell that Seth MacFarlane was influenced by The Critic in the way that he structures his writing for Family Guy. But, all right, we're transitioning freeways. It's probably a good time to take a small break here. AirborneSurfer.com is the website. Go to AirborneSurfer.com. Check out all the cool stuff, all the how-to videos, and all the articles and fantastic things that I've written and projects. Check everything out there. AirborneSurfer.com. Lots of how-tos. Bit of an archive on most everything. The only thing that's not there is the Freeway Forum. The Freeway Forum is on YouTube and on Facebook, depending on the day. But that's kind of where it is for now. I don't know if I'm going to put the Freeway Forum on YouTube, on AirborneSurfer.com or not. Also, on AirborneSurfer.com, there is an Amazon link in the upper right-hand corner. There's also one down in the doobly-doo. If you go to Amazon, if you're shopping on Amazon, please come by, click the link first before you do your shopping. Doesn't change your shopping experience at all, doesn't change the pricing, doesn't do anything like that. But I do get a little referral commission for sending you to Amazon.com through that. So it doesn't cost you anything more, but I get a little taste of that, get a little kickback, and it helps to support Airborne Surfer and AirborneSurfer.com. So, back to it. We're going to talk about, we're talking about old school cartoons. This started from the Flintstones, and we were talking about old school cartoons, the Rescue Rangers and the Disney Afternoon and Animaniacs, a little bit of Tiny Toon Adventures. The big one, I just started talking about The Critic, and The Critic is probably my favorite primetime cartoon animated series. Definitely ahead of its time. It was trying to capitalize on the success of The Simpsons, because at the time that The Critic came along, The Simpsons was definitely a runaway success. The Simpsons was definitely at its peak. It was in those first, within the first like 5 seasons or something like that, 5 or 6 seasons. Definitely a very strong series at the point. And so James Cohen decided to, James Brooks and David Cohen, they decided to greenlight another series, or they got Fox to greenlight another series. They were going to have a little more celebrity appeal this time. It was going to be more of a popular culture kind of show, or a commentary kind of show, and that became The Critic. And The Critic is funny in that it really is a send-up of not just popular culture, but cinema, Hollywood, in the early 90s, in the early to mid 90s. John Lovitz plays Jay Sherman. He's the voice of Jay Sherman, who's a film critic on a low-budget television show that's run by a Ted Turner-esque media tycoon. Lot of commentary there, classism, and living in New York, and all these sorts of things that sort of come about as part of the show. Of course, Jay Sherman's parents are they're old money, old New England sort of blue bloods, the Rockefeller or Roosevelt type of old moneyed family. And of course the dad is modeled after George Bush, senior, because that was the Bush years. It was like right at the cusp of like Bush going into Clinton years, or just into the Clinton years, like early, 92, 93-ish. And just a great series, just a lot of fun, lots of really good jokes. It's something that if you were a fan of movies from that era, from the the 80s going into the 90s, and even more classic type films, they really do a good send-up of that kind of stuff. Maurice LaMarche guest starred a lot. One of his, I guess probably his most famous, one of the most famous things he did there was he did, actually I think he was with a regular cast, he wasn't even a guest star, he was a regular cast for that show, but one of my favorite things he did there was he played Orson Welles. And if you've never seen Mo LaMarche playing Orson Welles, it is a sight to behold. Just go look up the Critic Orson Welles Rosebud Frozen Peas, and it's hilarious. It is definitely it is worth watching. Rosebud, yes, Rosebud's Frozen Peas. Oh my gosh, it's quite a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend everything today. I'm having a little punch drunk today. It's been a long week. I'm very tired, and I have lots of work to do this weekend and into next week. Gonna be on a shoot next week, and working on the upcoming documentary. Talking about Red Alert. There will be more stories about that soon. Command & Conquer Red Alert. We're doing a documentary on the on that game, classic game from the mid '90s. If you've never played it, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend everything right now. But yeah, we're going to be doing a documentary on Red Alert and sort of how that game has sort of come about, and it's sort of been sort of this side story between me and my best friend Chris, the other Chris. I have too many Chris's, way too many Chris's in my life. So we're doing that. We're going to be shooting some of that next week. So it's going to be a very, very busy week. I may or may not have a Freeway Forum next week. I'm not entirely certain. I will let you guys know. Of course, if I'm here, I will be here Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. We are in Greenwich Mean Time -7. So if you're in Britain, that's what time is that? That's 7 hours ahead of 5 p.m. So 3 gets to 8, 4 gets to midnight. Midnight in London, midnight in England. So that's where we are. 5 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern, midnight Greenwich. That is when the Freeway Forum is. Thursdays right here, live YouTube. May not have one next week, but of course, stay tuned. You'll find out. Hit me up on the Twitters at AirborneSurfer. You can also find me on Facebook at the AirborneSurfer, and you can follow there, and you can get all the information there as well. I gotta build that out a little bit. It's not quite ready for prime time, but it's getting there. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here, appreciate you watching, absolutely. Thank you for being here. If you're enjoying the Freeway Forum and you're not subscribed, please do subscribe and click the little bell notification icon so that you will know right when the next show starts next week. And you know, of course, we have all the fun how-tos and the doobly-doos and all that fun stuff right here on AirborneSurfer YouTube channel. And that's all I got today, guys. I thank you for joining me. My name is Tari. I'll catch you on the flop, and until then, tally ho, y'all.